Egads, Winklebottom. I think there was another mystery afoot. Welcome everyone. Today we're doing another little quickie little review, and today we're talking about Lord Winklebottom Investigates. This is a point-and-click game, as pure as a point-and-click game can get, and is another title that will be suffering the comparison to Detective Pikachu and how to do it better. So, first thing, Lord Winklebottom's story. So you play as, of course, Lord Winklebottom, a very gentleman's investigator, or you could just say a very simple draft stand-in for Sherlock Holmes. The game does really give me a very parroting Sherlock Holmes kind of vibe to it. And it's a very pure point-click-esque experience when it comes to that. Even the setup for the mystery is pretty commonly used. Basically, Winklebottom is invited by a friend to come to an island, and oh no, gasp, they get murdered. It's time to find out who's behind it, and you can't get off the island also, so they'll figure it out before someone else horrifically dies. Ooh. Anyway, if you're not familiar with point-and-click games, well, I mean, it's pointing and clicking, and on console, you'll be using your analog stick and your button to just interact with things. Poke, 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 poke. You'll be collecting items, merging items, combining items, and giving items, and slapping things in the people's faces. Be like, there's your thingy-bob you wanted. Let's progress with the story, shall we? Now, when I talked about Detective Pikachu, I said that a point-click-esque type game really has like three main pillars. You have its voice acting, humorous, interactionable, like models or 2D animations, and then, of course, the overall story. Detective Pikachu, in my opinion, really fails at all three of these, and thus was such a very poor opinion in my opinion. While Winklebottom doesn't have amazing 2D animations, being it is a 2D affair, it does have an interesting aesthetic to its look of the characters. All the characters are animals, and not in a fully humanoid kind of way. They are a lot more actual animals. Now, admittedly, many of them do stand on two legs, except for Winklebottom. Winklebottom is sadly forced to be still a four-legged creature for his height, which commonly gets made fun of occasionally. But anyway, other than that note, it does have its voice acting. It is a fully voice acted. Wow, a little indie game that was kickstarted, fully voice acted, and pretty decently. The voice acting is, in my opinion, the highlight of this game, where Detective Pikachu had very minimal voice acting, and for the most part, aside from Detective Pikachu, very, very poor actors for the most part, honestly, in my opinion. Lord Winklebottom gets the job done. Characters play as they are, with humorous takes and humor and jokes and little gags mixed in.
From what I recall, this door leads to the attic. Sadly, it appears to be locked at the moment.
Why do people insist on locking doors all over the place? Most inconvenient. Nobody ever considers us.
I rather imagine Gilfrey wasn't expecting to die, so probably wasn't anticipating our investigation.
Well, yes, I suppose the whole thing is rather more inconvenient for him.
I say, it's true what they say, then, about you preferring to walk on all fours. Bit old-fashioned these days, what?
I just happen to think it's rather more refined.
Plus he'd bash his bonce on the ceiling if he tried to walk in the modern style. Yes, well, medicine is difficult, especially for you know.
Rumpole.
Oh, don't worry. I'm used to that sort of reaction.
It all works out very nice. It is definitely the more competent part. Now, the point-and-click-esque all works and functions. I didn't really run into any real major issues or anything, and it comes to the point-and-clicking aspect of this particular title. So you shouldn't have much of a trouble with that unless you're brand new to the point-and-click games. Now, it does suffer some of the problems that point-and-click games are notorious for, and that is what the fuck do I do parts. There's always usually one or two in these kind of games, sadly. Because, you know, you gotta think outside the box or do something in the right order sometimes. So, it's just bound to happen, sadly. And I'm not gonna mince words. It definitely happened on a few occasions in this title. But overall, it is all the clickings and the clackings of a point-and-click game. You can investigate, look at items, take items, and interact with the characters as you try to figure out what the fuck happened here and stuff. Now, if you're interested in this title, digitally, it goes for $18.99 on most platforms. It's available on Switch, PlayStation, Xbox, and on PC. And if you want DRM free, it's on itch.io. Oddly enough, not on GOG for some reason. Oddly enough, though, for some reason on PSN, it's $19.49. That's a really strange price point there. Not really sure where that came from. Now, of course, being a very commonly physical owner of the majority of the titles I have, I do own a PlayStation 4 physical version, though it did also get a physical release on Switch, and these are pretty commonly on the cheaper end. You can usually find a copy between $10 to $20, which is a pretty reasonable price, to be honest. And like I said, I didn't have any problems with my copy. Again, PS4 version, so I can't speak for the Switch version. But regardless of what platform you go for, it will likely be pretty decent, I imagine. Now, value-wise, what would I give this this particular title value? While the voice acting is definitely enjoyable, the animations are very simple. There was a interesting simplicity to the art style of the characters and their very slight movements, but it's definitely not a big thing per se. And as I said with like the three pillars are kind of what really determine the value of a point and click. Point and click is a very old genre. There are many classics in the point and click genre, and the prices are all over the place. They can be anywhere from like $10 to $30, and I'm not really, you know, it really does bring up the question: how much did a lot of old point-click games, you know, like the classics, how much did they actually go for when, like, you know, when they actually had the old DOS floppies and stuff? I'm not actually really sure. That's an interesting question, actually. I don't know what the going price on those were in their actual heyday, but that is there in the internet. So, you know, this game's just a little bit under $20 digitally, and you can basically get for also under $20 for physical. So, those are pretty good prices. But what would I concrete give as the value for this game? I mean, the voice acting, like I said, is really good. It's very humorous, and I love the actors, and it's definitely the charming part. And the ending, and we'll get into that about spoilers, but did leave a little bit of a curiosity of space for a sequel. And I did actually contact the devs on Twitter and ask them if they were going to look into possibly doing a sequel, and they said they would love to do a sequel. So that would actually lead to a much more interesting story, in my opinion, if they did. But the story you get in this is, for the most part, pretty stereotypical, other than one actual element about the ending part. But other than that, like, when it comes to the actual, like, mortal, not a, like, you know, a tremendous, like, this ain't dang on Wampa, let's put it that way. But it gets the job done. It's enjoyable, and if you don't have a lot of point-and-click games under your belt, it probably won't be too common. But like I said, if you play a lot of mystery point-and-click or just mystery games in general, the whole, my friend invited me to an island, and all of a sudden someone got more and we're trapped on an island, we got to figure it out. There's a very common setup for this kind of scenario. So I'm not going to say, like, the story is absolutely blah, but it's definitely not the most unique setup. So I would give it kind of more of a 50-50. So I think like halfway. So I think like 15, I think, is a pretty nice price for this. So I think that digitally is just a little bit over, but it's still a pretty decent price, though. I mean, come on. I always say like 20 bucks is a very fair price for a competent game, and well, it is a competent point-click game. I just feel like it's a little bit more. I should say, like, the voice acting, like I said, is again the big highlight in it. Honestly, it really is. It very is. It very much is.
Oh, hello.
I am Lord Winklebottom III.
But that's my subjective opinion on this particular title. Now, if you have a questions that you don't feel like I went over with that, feel free to leave a comment down below and I'll get to you. And let's go over the spoilers real quick. So what is interesting about the ending of Lord Winklebottom Investigates? So, you know, your friend got murdered, and you got all these people that got invited to this island. Again, very common little trope with this kind of thing. And you find out it was the accountant, the frog, and the scientist lizard. Chameleon? Lizard? Chameleon? I mean, but anyway, potatoes. But anyway,
Made it at last.
you find out they're behind it. But why? Why did they do any of this? Well, it seems that they had wandered too close to historical things that have been forgotten. The interesting twist in the story is that you learned that people existed. Yes, a society all about animals, but before them, people existed and went extinct, and that is the big mystery that they are trying to cover up. Apparently, they have cloned humans. They test-tubed humans, and they made a human creature. And that's kind of the twist that Winklebottom basically learns this ancient history that, and like, it kind of leaves us like this weird secret society. It's like, ooh, we can't have Lord Winklebottom knowing this. We're going to have to take care of him. So that's what I mean, like, it could leave a lot of space for a very interesting sequel, to be honest. But the devs would obviously have to, well, actually do that. And this was a Kickstarted project. So I don't know if they would have the funds to do that on their own at this point. It might be something they would have to Kickstarter again. But to be honest, I would be interested to see it personally. But those are my thoughts on Lord Winklebottom Investigates. Until next time, another mystery will be afoot. I'll see you next time.